Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Wednesday, September 29th. Now right now on the screen I wanted to show off what I've been working on as part of the accountability section. No promises this will ever get fully implemented. There is still some procedural things and programming things that would be bits of speed bumps. In general, there's no way to have a thumbnail generator using OBS that would figure out what game you're playing, so I'd have to change the text in the lower thing. I can't use the mouse to point at things right now. But this is as far as I've gotten so far, as the idea of having a scene in OBS that would be able to grab footage and use that as part of a thumbnail for YouTube. In general, you have the red line border, which is probably too thick, but I would have to see that, frankly, on my cell phone as much as see it on the desktop. Honestly, it doesn't really even matter what the thumbnail looks like on the desktop because so many people are using the thumbnails. In the top right, there's a little tag, little triangle cut out of the corner, and then I have 888 there as a testing episode number. That way I know there's enough space to have a 3-digit number. The odds that I'd have more than 100 episodes of any series these days is fairly low, but you do want the option there. You use the digit number 8 because the number 8 digit is the widest / tallest, takes up the most pixels, and it shows off the default segments if you were using a 7-segment LCD display to show a number. And then in the lower right corner, going across the bottom of the screen, we have my logo, which in the final product would obviously be inset more so that the red border would be around all of it. And yeah, again, it probably needs to be close to like 1 pixel. I've got it at like 5 pixels, maybe 10 pixels now. That's probably too much. The thing I'm having trouble figuring out is the background gradient of going from a full white background to a black see-through gray background. What that creates is a very sharp edge at the top, and so I would want the top part of the entire gradient going along the entire bottom of the screen to feather out and either be another gradient that mixes better and blurs and just feathers into the rest of the image. Obviously, if this was a real thumbnail, the motion of Shadowverse is not going to be caught. It would be one single frame of what you're seeing now. The text and the font and things like that would still definitely need to be adjusted to find a font to use. I'd have to go back and even figure out what font I used to make my logo and go back and try and use that one. And then the actual screenshot is just a zoomed in version of the main screen of Shadowverse right now. Basically what I'm trying to do without putting any logic into it, because I can't, there's no program that would be easy to use that would do like face detection and figure out which frame in a bunch of frames is the best frame to use, like YouTube has that as an option, and there's no even good frame system that I know of that could click on something and do like a magic wand that you could do in Photoshop to potentially draw lines around the main characters that are being displayed here. But what you can do is you can try and cheat it and fake it by using the 2/3 rule. If you make the assumption that any really thought out picture that has been generated is going to try and frame things with on the third intersection. So 1/3 of the height down and 2/3 of the height down should have points of interest, either of positive space or negative space. What you could do then is just generally zoom in on the center of the image and get something decent. It's not great. I'm clipping off the wing of the fairy character on the right. She's just completely out of the picture. I'm clipping out a lot of the character on the left. He has just a giant sword on the left, and you'll be able to compare. I'm clipping the top of the fiery dragon character, the top of his horns. I'm not clipping the logo, Dawn of Calamity, that's in the top right, because it's just a little too big. That being said, I assume for most games, if you get within the center of a screen, you didn't tend to remove a lot of the heads-up display. And even on this title screen, that is definitely true, because in the full zoom of the image, there is in the top left a menu button, a link data button. In the lower left, there's a Shadowverse logo and a Cryware logo. In the bottom center, there's click to start and copyright side games. And then the lower right, there's the version number and an ID number. And then the top right, there's the Dawn of Calamity logo. So there's a ton of extra stuff that you wouldn't want in a thumbnail. I've even given some thought to maybe trying to get different sections of a image and collaging it together, having like sharp lines that would show one image and then another image and then another image. But doing that still would have to be fairly random until there was some kind of face detection. I could see a scenario where if you could grab the character on the left's face and zoom that in, and then the character on the right's face and zoom that in, and the character in the middle's face and zoom that in, and then you had 3 triangles showing each of those faces, that would be a very unique, different image, further away from what the game is really representing, though. So I wanted to show this off so I could get some potential early feedback, not just looking for positive or negative, but that certainly helps too if you think these thumbnails a thumbnail like this is the right kind of general format and template to use, or if it's it is quite a lot of red, but red gets clicked on. What can I say? The border probably needs more frames on the top, more pixels on the top than on the sides to make it look square, because it's a 16:9. In fact, it would probably make a lot of sense to literally have 16 pixels or on each side, or maybe 8 pixels on each side, and then 4 pixels at the top and bottom, or 9 pixels at the top and bottom and 16 on each side. That would be an easy way to have a 16:9 ratio frame. There's a concern certainly about making the text look sharp and good. The text could also be way too big. It could be way too small. That's going to heavily depend on just what it looks like on cell phones in those thumbnails. You don't want anything in the lower right corner, because that's where the timer is. And the top left corner, I don't really have anything to put there. I could try to put a logo up there, but I think it's probably not worth it. If this did become a fully implemented thumbnail generator, what I would do is not actually have the number in the template in the thumbnail. I would make one thumbnail, and then I would generate, say, 100 copies using Image Magic, and then have Image Magic automatically through a command line script just generate the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up to like 100 and put it in the same position. And that was one of the things, certainly, as far as the last time I thought about making thumbnails and just how much time it would take, is that if you have to manually put in the number, and yeah, I know Photoshop has scripts, but you have to be pretty decent at the scripting aspect of Photoshop to be able to use that. But to get that number going, plus, as soon as you change to the next game, you potentially in Photoshop have less of a easy path to fix to make a new thumbnail. Shadowverse itself, even if it's the same game, puts out a different expansion. So as soon as there's a new expansion, that would be the time to make new thumbnails and change it up. Unfortunately, it also kind of highlights the problem with gamers and gaming content on YouTube, where you're going to have multiple episodes that probably should have the same thumbnail, versus almost every other kind of content on YouTube where you're supposed to have only one video about that one subject, relatively speaking, and one unique thumbnail for that one video. That's just not really doable. So yeah, there's still some work that would have to be put into it, and it would inevitably cost me more time when uploading videos to YouTube, and that is still a nightmare. So here's what it looks like in general after that 12-minute request for feedback. Yeah, if you don't have anything else or any other suggestions or ideas artistically, just giving feedback to say that yes, this is a thumbnail that would make me click more, or no, this is a thumbnail that looks like too much like clickbait or something like that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on something that ends up being a big failure. So mostly what on the main game you can see is only about this much of the screen was being depicted. It was just being zoomed in. There is a slight danger in zooming in that it could get a little pixely, but that works fairly well on a title screen. It doesn't work as well in random gameplay. So in a lot of games, particularly if they don't have a title screen, the idea of just getting random gameplay and zooming in is probably not going to help too much. I could see like trying to make a thumbnail based on random gameplay for the Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and it would not look particularly interesting at all. It really wouldn't. There's something I wanted to point out on this main screen also. These are the Shadowverse creatures that you fight at the very beginning of the game in the main story, just like the prologue in chapter 1. We never saw these guys really return, and the symbol never really seemed to mean much of anything. Maybe we saw these guys show up for a brief moment in like the Western story, but these other characters have never made a return, so it's really weird to see them come back. Maybe the main story is finally going to hit a point where another world in the multiverse of Shadowverse is going to be at the verge of being destroyed, like the first world was. So let's hop in. On top of the accountability section, I did work on the irrigation system a little bit, in the sense that I tested yet another replacement plumbing part to make sure it wouldn't leak, at least in its default form, and then took a lot of things apart to realize it wouldn't fit, physically fit, and I would need adapters. Alright, we've got some puzzles now that we're going to have to focus on. Meanwhile, let's replace this private match. Let's go ahead and open one pack, and then I'm going to jump into a Forestcraft game just to show off what it generally would look like in-game, in an actual game. There we go. We'll just open 3 packs now. This could easily be an interesting thumbnail, but it doesn't show faces, and the algorithm is so obsessed with faces that I think you have to just follow the algorithm. Yeah. It is a better experience opening card packs when you have a minimal number of card packs. Even more than 5 starts to feel like it's just too much of a waste of time to actually look at the cards. And that's a shame. It kind of feels like what they should do, and it would be a crazy thing to do in a collectible card game, is they should limit the number of packs you can open per day. That would be an incredibly generous way to make a game, to say, hey, no, we will only let you open 5 packs a day or 10 packs a day, and if you do the daily quests thing, you're going to be able to get 5 packs worth of gold each day. And that would mean even the whales trying to win, pay to win, would only be able to be twice as far ahead of you as anyone else. I'm just gonna pick a unranked match with fairies here. And so, yeah, if I come back and show this as it shows here, oops, I can't move the mouse because the mouse automatically changes the scene. You can see how just in the game itself, that zoom is not going to work for a lot of scenes. But there might be a point.
A pointed sword deserves a pointed response.
Well, I have to play over here. There might be a point where it actually works. What you would do, obviously, is you would have to have all the elements locked down, which OBS does have a lockdown function. And once it's locked down, see, yeah, this is just like a terrible thumbnail that just shows you the center, which that's fine if you were going to just have a background and you needed a background, but it's totally useless. Even when I come in here and say play this card, and then like now you kind of get a zoomed in image. So, but even that zoom in is not quite right. So there would have to be a lot of dragging and dropping and pinching and zooming as far as just possibilities. Okay.
Don't hurt me. Stay away.
But yeah, it is questionable whether it's really stupid to try and make a thumbnail generator in OBS, just because I'm more confident in OBS than saying using Photoshop or GIMP. More likely I just use GIMP. GIMP has a lot of features which makes it kind of overly complicated, in my opinion. Okay, hit this. This is during a turn whenever an effect adds at least double the number of fairies. Alright, well.
I take so much for that axe. It looks like I'm up.
Delightful.
So yeah. There would have to be some picking and choosing in the middle of each game to make the thumbnails.
And so our pact is forged.
And it is a hassle that
A precious life
there
deserves
isn't a
precious
better
life.
way to upload things.
More.
You have summoned the
Ideally,
Dragon
there might be a
Foundation.
better way in the future to upload things. Since the newest update for OBS now is using a token-based login to YouTube instead of just using a streamer key, which would integrate the chat into a dockable window in YouTube in OBS, which would save me a little bit of time every time I have to pop out a Chrome window with the YouTube chat and then position it. If that was just by default in OBS, that'd be great. The problem with it as it stands is that there is
A withered life can no longer tell of its plight. You shall fall. The words escape me.
okay.
I'll see you in purgatory.
Hey, let's play. Is that how you treat a lady? Yeah. I take so much for that axe.
I don't know why that one evolved, but whatever. Yep. The problem with the new integration of YouTube into OBS is that the
Lose yourself in this final
tags that you would expect to be able to manipulate when creating and maintaining a broadcast are not there. You can't have tags to your stream, which at a certain point maybe that means a lot of people who are just going to be lazy about streaming to YouTube will now not have any tags, which I don't know if that really changes anything because YouTube claims that it does very little with tags anyways.
You want to hunt? Be my guest. That was almost amusing.
But
The hunt has only begun.
yeah, I would not
Savior.
be willing to forego not having tags just for the convenience of having chat, so that once that gets adjusted and created, that's great, but there really aren't any other features per se that you're getting extra via doing it through OBS directly versus just going to the broadcast page on YouTube and setting that up. Why did that return? That sucked.
I'm the most fabulous demon of them out of the way.
Stop it. Stop it.
Like, ideally what you would want to have happen is that you could manipulate the broadcast and they could be episodic. Like, at a certain point, almost all my footage could be live broadcasted. I don't know if I'd want to do that, and honestly, even I think I would probably think about making a second channel before I would go down that route. Because that is
You want to hunt?
asking a lot.
Can't believe you slapped me.
Okay. If I return that,
Hey, let's play. Hey, let's play.
I won't let you get away. That beast is my savior.
Do we want to play this again?
Hey, let's play.
Yep. Yeah.
Show me the limits of your will.
I'm not sure if the new version of OBS adds much of anything else. Nothing that immediately caught my attention. The YouTube integration was quite a lot. Okay. 5. We'll wait for 8.
You want a hunt? Be my guest.
That was almost amusing.
This is the end. That beast is my savior.
Let's go ahead and kill this guy.
Was delightful.
And then just end the turn there. Alright. So, yeah, what else do we have to talk about as far as the accountability section before we jump into the news? I've been playing Regency Solitaire. It started off fairly heavy on story and short on gameplay, where there was really just 2 solitaire games in the first chapter. One was a duel, one was a regular solitaire game. But I'm not even to the halfway point now, and it seems like every chapter is going to have at least 8 sub-games, sub-chapters for each chapter. And there's at least 12 more chapters to do. And I spotlighted a game called Fingered. I think I already talked about that, but I'm potentially still seeing if I can get all the achievements in that game and actually beat it off screen. And I'm actually playing Hexel's Infinite to get the last achievement there every now and then too. Just trying to finish off some achievement games and being obsessed about achievements for no good reason. Which I've had like Hexel's Infinite installed for a very long time, maybe a year or two, specifically to try and get all the achievements, and I just never get around to playing games when I'm not making footage. Alright, so we earn points to receive rewards. I think we pretty much already know this. We've done quests before. Quest is a recurring time-limited mode where you challenge AI-controlled opponents and complete missions to collect points and gain rewards. Harder difficulties give you more points. And these are definitely the anime characters. So once again, we're getting the Shadowverse anime shoved down our throat into a game that had already been well established. Defeat each beginner expert to expert opponent 3 times to start earning extra points for future wins against the same opponent. Points differ depending on difficulty. This is basically the exact same thing this is saying. Leon appears as an elite level opponent. Defeat Leon once per day to earn 4 greater quest points than defeating the other opponents. After defeating Leon, you can still battle him in training matches, but no further quest points can be awarded for defeating him that day. Well, at least that explains that a lot better than it has been explained in the past. Of course, I have no idea who Leon is. Puzzles are event quests where you must try and figure out the correct order of actions to complete an objective. You will earn points the first time you clear a puzzle, as well as the rewards for the complete tie-in missions. I suppose the reason why they're making everybody see these tutorials is because they did do new art, and frankly these tutorials are helpful to remind people, since these events do come and go fairly quickly. And here you can see in the anime they have basically these ARM card readers, which there really is nothing stopping someone from actually making an ARM card reader for a real-world collectible card game. The problem with it is projecting that onto anything of interest and not just having then Shadowverse load onto an Android tablet after that point. In the Japanese arcades, which most of the Japanese arcades are probably going to be shut down by the next 2 or 3 years, there were some collectible card games that could simply be scanned. So you would put it through almost like a credit card reader, and the card would be scanned and loaded into your into the game. And in that arcade presentation, yeah, you can potentially have a giant screen or even a hologram projector if you're going to spend a lot of money on it to make a really interesting experience. But for a day-to-day use, it doesn't really work. In fact, even this really doesn't work because this would have to be super cheap. Imagine a world where you had a super popular kids toy like the Switch, but the Switch only played one thing, and every single one of your children has to have their own Switch to play. There's no co-op or anything like that. That would be incredibly expensive, and it kind of just highlights how these kinds of worlds don't really make sense and wouldn't work. The same is true for Shadowhands, which is a universe that seems to be obsessed with playing one very specific type of solitaire, and you're just constantly playing that one type of solitaire for often no reason at all. You're given like no description or anything like that. And here you have Kai, who frankly looks like a girl more than a guy with that blue hair curl. But yeah, I assume he is a guy. So we could do these, but let's just start with the puzzles. The puzzles are the more interesting one. Brilliant Blessings. Play the following puzzles. These will probably be fairly simple, so just, I would say, consider these a walkthrough solution. Reduced enemies, leader defense to 0. That's probably always going to be the case. Right, so we have something with ward. We have nothing in effect. We have shades that they're fighting. That's interesting. Right, now. Storm to all allied fairies. So, I mean, this should be fairly easy. You just play this fairy, then you play this, and then you give this to that. Now, evolve. These have storm. I guess you evolve this to kill that. And then this should be 11. So you'd have to play pretty badly or just not read the cards to solve that puzzle. Okay, play another puzzle. Victorious Flash. I am going to spend the extra time to do this. Defeat all enemy followers. Alright. That could be a little bit more difficult. Stormblade Ward. Can't take more than 1 damage at a time. Ooh. How is this going to play then? Let's see. Can attack 2 times per turn. Well, as followers in play, the leader and all allied followers in play that come into play have the reduced damage by 3. Right? Reduced damage by 3. Alright, well, I guess you just pretty much do this.
Victorious, ever glorious.
Don't have an evolve. Do this. And then this can only take 1 damage at a time, so you like attack this. Okay, I see what happens. You do 1 damage and then your effect does 1 damage. And then you attack this again.
The gods have been outrived.
That is definitely a scenario where I may not have figured that out in just regular gameplay. But also all of these cards are kind of new, so it wouldn't be surprising if nobody would have figured that out at first without really thinking it through. Reduce the leader's defense to 0. This is more cards than you probably need. You can't take more than 2 damage at a time. This would do 5 damage to all enemy followers. So that'd probably kill everything. So then the next part of this question would be follower strike deal X damage, X equals half this follower's attack. This follower costs at least 7 play points, give this next time this follower takes damage, reduce it to 0. This costs 7, so you take no damage. Okay. If I played this, we'd give all Dragoncraft followers rush. Which I think we may need. We can attack now. Deal 1 extra damage as far as spells. Effects deal 1 extra damage. Play point orb. You don't have any evolves. So I think it probably is this that you do. And then this. And this. And then this. Yeah. I don't think this is enough.
I'll seize this chance to prevail.
Okay. Interesting. It is resetting us now. We have to kill it in one turn, otherwise in one action. Otherwise we die too. Yeah, and if we were to summon this, that would be ward and drain. This would do 2 damage to all things.
Well, settle down, would you?
Hmm. Maybe we don't need
Hey, this wasteland's a fixer-upper.
that so much. This one can attack, right? Okay.
We work together.
Three less cards. That won't happen.
This is pure craftsmanship. Well, on to the next project.
Okay, so I'm thinking you do this one,
Hey, this wasteland's a fixer-upper.
and then yeah, playing at 5 just does not feel like that's going to work. See, this isn't even a Dragoncraft character, so I don't know why I would play that.
Well, settle down, would you?
Yeah,
We work
it
together.
was my hope to hit that,
Get kicked by a horse.
and that didn't work. Yeah, I've got to figure out some way to kill all of these characters. Which, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Let's see. You do this, and then that does some damage. empty play point orbs. All we're trying to do is get him down to 0. Yeah, and you're like 5 away from that concept. Let's see. I think you kind of have to have this.
Settle down, would you? I'll seize this chance to prevail.
I could attack here, and I could attack here. None of that really is going to change anything.
Soaring honor.
When I killed this, that's not really triggering anything.
We work together.
I did my bestest.
There's something about this card specifically that is getting the piercing. Next time this takes damage, reduce it to 0. Does that really affect anything? This would be Storm.
Hey, this wasteland's a fixer-upper. This is pure craftsmanship.
I did my bestest.
That does get this up to nearly enough to do damage. So how can we attack, have these two removed first? You play this, you have last words, deal 2 damage to everything, that kills you. You play this, that gives you health.
Well, settle down, would you?
And then Bane here.
I'll seize this chance to prevail.
And then guess you power this up and then you kill this one. Okay. If this doesn't work, I think we'll have to just opt to move on, because I have no idea. That, got that, that, got rid of that. Oh, and that brings back another one of these. So I have to play in opposite order. And see, if I had done that, then... And I may have been able to attack and win, yeah. Okay, I think I've got it. We play this Bane character. We play this Drain character. And reset. You play the Drain character. Then you play the Bane character. And then we pump up the guy. Then we kill this guy first. Then we kill that guy. 6. What? I have no idea. But we'll have to work on that later. If anything, I'm just so rusty, as I've not really been paying a lot of attention to Shadowverse, that even a mediocre puzzle like that is too much for me. And honestly, it's not really worth my time. I should just look up the answer. Reduce enemies' leaders' defense to 0. This is going to be... This does not take any damage from effects. It has 4 versions and 2 versions. Gain evolution points. Not that that matters. Subtract 1 from this. This summons God of Curses. This summons Holy Falcon. This summons a Holy Falcon. This gives you a 2.0 with Rush. So do we have... This would reduce your the enemy leader's maximum defense by 4. 5th turn or later? I guess it is. 10th turn or later. Hello, Dogma would be okay. But we don't. That's a fanfare. It just summons Holy Falcons, so we're gonna summon all kinds of Holy Falcons, I think. So we have a 2 there. Temple, Summit Temple. We don't have that in play. Damage equal to its defense. That is a Holy Falcon's defense. 1. Yeah, I don't think that really helps anything. Opinion prayer. One countdown from all things. This subtracts 4 from all allied things. I think you probably want this. Okay. So this
A fitting end.
and then this is probably right.
A fitting end.
And then I'm thinking
You've walked into
we
the
want
wrong
that on
forest,
the
friend.
field. Well, we have another one of these, don't we? But I couldn't have 4 on the field, could I? Storm to an allied follower might be the idea. Damage equal to its defense. If I was gonna do this again and have 4, I would have had to kill this guy fighting one of these, which
Just doing my
probably
job.
is what I would do.
A fitting end.
And then I would have to do something like this, and then this. And then I would have to have killed something with this. And see, doing this won't do any damage. Let's try that again. So you start by playing this.
Divinity by name's ignorance.
Then you hit that,
A fitting end.
and you hit that,
A fitting end. Just
then
doing my job.
you hit that.
A fitting end.
Then it becomes a question as far as what do we want? Was this useful as far as giving a bullet? Yeah, it was. Alright, so we want this to be our last thing. EU's on the chat saying hi. Hi, EU. Let's see. Deals damage equal to its defense. Would that help anything? Not really. I think you play this one, and then this one, and then that would just put you back to where you were. Then you play this.
By name's ignorance.
There we go.
A fitting end. Just doing my job. A fitting end.
Hey, we've got it. Give Storm to this character. And then attack there. And attack there. A lot of extra cards there. A lot of tricky, puzzly extra cards. Play another puzzle. Move on to the next one. I believe last time we had a puzzle expansion, there was about 2 puzzles that I couldn't figure out, and I had to either look it up or try really hard and spend a lot of hours on it. We may have the same scenario this time. Again, reduce the enemy's leader's defense to 0. Every time we have these puzzles, particularly in Shadowverse compared to like Hearthstone, when there were puzzles, it felt like there was a chance in Hearthstone that you could actually do a 5-card combo like you do in these puzzles to win when playing regular people. In Shadowverse, it feels like there is 0 chance of that actually happening. Alright. Deal 1 damage to all enemies up to 10 times per turn. Whenever an enemy follows destroyed. Soul Strike. Necromancy 3. Do we have this fanfare? I guess maybe that's not a fanfare. So do we have a way to kill this, to summon some skeletons, to maybe do some other things? Maybe we could kill this, then kill this, maybe bring it back, kill this. Alright. Cards with last words. Two copies of the same thing. I don't think we're gonna use that. If you have more shadows than cards in your deck, give you... Alright, this would give us play points, so I think that's probably what we want to do. Recover an evolution point, maybe. Probably not going to use that one. Destroy it instead of banishing a card. This only lets you destroy allied cards, though. Okay. So, do we have any way? I think this is the card you play. But then, so destroy a card and summon a card. So Soul Strike deals 4 damage to an enemy follower. Last words. Alright. 4. Summon 2 ghosts. Bane. Storm. Okay, during your turn, when this card is added to your hand from your deck, if you have at least 10 shadows, reveal it and destroy a random character. Alright. How would we add it to our hand from the deck? That seems impossible. I think we're just gonna have to play this out and see how this really works. Do this. There's nothing here we would want to evolve, so I think you hit this. And that brings another one about. I think you hit this. I think you do this. Yeah, I don't think this does anything as far as the reduction of being banished.
Detestable.
Get that. Okay. That did quite a lot. That was definitely a lot more than I thought it was going to do. See. Do we attack here or do we play this? So that's an evolve back. When a player with an original attack or defensive one, give it Storm. Would there be anything that would need that other than this? Okay. I feel like you're supposed to kill this, and there would be really no reason not to kill this, so do that. And then we'll do that. Okay. So now we put this attack here. Then we'll see if this is the right card to destroy and bring back. Maybe that was the right card, maybe it wasn't. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know how this last words. I don't know how we could get 2 soul strikes to actually do 4 damage there. And did I waste something that would have let me create more soul strikes, or is the soul strike the... I think that's the mistake. So it doesn't have so much to do with this. Okay. So I think... yeah, you start with this. That worked fairly well. And then... What we want is kind of a system in which things are staggered. So, should we play this first? I kind of think we should. 8. See, because now you have like 5, 6, 5. We want that to die first.
I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
Detestable.
And so when we do this now, does that help?
The demons a monster enjoys a walk in the sun.
But see, if I was gonna do this to attack this, then I don't know if there was really a real reason to do all of that.
Tonight.
Destroy an allied follower. Summon a copy of the allied follower that costs 2 plus points or less and had the last words when it was destroyed this match. Give it +3 plus rush. Well, let's see what happens when we do that.
There's no other way. There's no
I mean,
retreat.
that gives you 5. Yeah. I still don't see how this would break down into that much more damage.
Detestable.
Can you stop my onslaught?
Like we're still 6 short. Which, okay. This he played this, I think now.
Guys, I've seen them.
And then we're looking for the necromancy here first, I think.
The demons
Which then that gives us back to 10 play point orbs. Which maybe it's a little premature to do that. Okay. And so then I'm gonna kill the biggest one with Bane first. Then I guess we start with this one. Well, that's odd. I wasn't expecting that to happen. When this follower comes to play, if you have more shadow cards than in your deck, more shadows than cards in your deck, which is not the case anymore. It's not stackable though, so that feature doesn't seem like that would really help. You could destroy this since it's already attacked. Why did that not summon an allied follower that cost 2 less? That doesn't make sense.
There's no other way tonight. There's no retreat.
Do that.
I'm coming for you. Detestable. Detestable.
Can you stop my onslaught?
Yeah, I don't think there's a solution here that's going to present itself. This is too complicated. Let's see. See, I guess if we enhance this,
I'm coming for you.
there was something here that said instead of banishing it, destroy it. Wasn't there? This gives you just storm. This just does that. Give all allied followers the following effect when this card is banished, destroyed instead, which is helpful, but not really. Destroy an allied follower. So I'm gonna copy. Soul Strike.
Detestable.
1,
No. Detestable.
2.
No.
Maybe we didn't need to do 2.
Tonight, there's no retreat.
I wonder if you are not supposed to just use both cards to do the same thing. That would be my guess. Forge an enemy leader. Or and that's all of my cards. It's all my orbs.
Justify their anger.
Yeah. This is too complicated. I did not foresee or plan to end up doing these puzzles, so I'm definitely not prepared for this. So yeah, we may only get a couple of them cleared. These cards are complicated. They're new. They've got new abilities. They want us to pull off 4, 5, 6 colored combinations. Meanwhile, the vast majority of my attention as far as playing Shadowverse has been completely drained, and this is really just yet another argument towards moving towards the Pokemon card game if there are no copyright content ID claims on that. Wallace followers all unevolved allied followers in play. So this would potentially evolve a lot of things. 5 to both leaders when it dies. Plus a clash of 3. So is there a way we can make this attack multiple times?
The truth lurks in the dark.
Force Bat. Bane and Drain. One defense to all followers. So we could do this and this. Three bats for 1. Summons 2 wolves and restores 5 health. I'm not sure we need that. 4 damage to all enemies. Vengeance. 2 to all allies and enemies. Then drain. Okay. So I think you play this, because there's really nothing there otherwise. Could I get Vengeance now to activate? Probably should have played this
Only
first.
one stands to ascend tonight.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, whenever an allied force bat comes into play,
Stands to
give it
ascend
Storm,
tonight. A golden night begins.
which at first I don't think is going to really do much.
Golden night begins.
What is this guy's effect? Yeah, it seems like I'm gonna have to banish this character, otherwise he's gonna destroy my highest card. 4 damage all. This activates Vengeance.
I'll slice you to ribbons.
Which that should have been activated. Can't be destroyed by effects. Okay, so that means as long as this is the highest amount of damage, it doesn't matter. So we activated Vengeance. Then we kind of would need Corrupting Force to go any further. Okay. Let's see. For damage, all enemies activate Vengeance. That's probably your best bet. And then I guess maybe you do this.
We shall, through moments both fleeting and eternal.
One here. And then I guess one there.
Let us talk the night away.
The truth lurks in the dark. I'm taking you with me.
Let's see, that just heals the guy. So then I'd have to have something that would work. And wow, I guess there's probably only one Machinima cards. Right, so if I was to do, this is probably not it, but Corrupting Blood to start with, that does that.
Live, we shall, through moments both fleeting and eternal.
Restore, getting rid of one card, and then that draws, would only draw a card if we had another card.
On your right, no, your left.
Okay.
I did my bestest.
Force bats.
Only one stands to ascend tonight. On your right, your left begins.
really accomplishing anything now. No. The only thing I could think is maybe this fusion card is supposed to take this card and then yeah, it doesn't seem to do anything else. Wrath doesn't seem like it would do anything. Bane and Drain. This fusion card could fuse 2 cards. But that's not going to do anything useful, probably. Storm to all uninvolved characters. Just start with that.
I'll slice you to ribbons.
Okay. There's a Darkfest bat. Yeah, I guess maybe that is it. We need number of times I've been damaged. Let's try that. If you have at least 7 play points, put a Darkfest bat into your hand.
Only one stands
Great.
to a fleeting night begins.
Okay. Is there any way whatsoever, though, that you get any play points back? So yeah, you do this and you're gonna do 2 damage, and that's it. So Darkfest is not it. There's no focus on, no reason for that, unless doing this and getting a Darkfest bat gives you a machinima card, which it doesn't.
Live, we shall, through moments both fleeting and eternal.
This would have to have Vengeance already activated, though. So you can't play this and this. If that matters. It may not matter.
Your left. light away.
Hmm.
On your right, no, your left.
I'm taking you with me.
Yeah, that just brings it back, though. Well, almost to the point where the wraith count would be enough to give this
Allow me to bestow a queen.
that,
Your
but
left.
The truth lurks in the dark.
yeah, that's not doing anything. I don't even see the end game here. Like, this gets you as close towards the end game, I think, as possible to start with. And then maybe you're supposed to play this?
Through moments both fleeting and eternal.
Restore one defense to maybe one person.
On your right, no, your left.
Hmm. And see, that didn't do anything. So if that was supposed to do something, it didn't.
The truth lurks in the dark.
I did my bestest.
I keep thinking it would have to be this plus this, which was 8, which then means you can't play this. So then it'd have to just be this,
We shall. Through moments both fleeting and eternal.
and then it would have to be this.
Too much party, not enough business.
See, I don't have anything that even could be healed.
Let us talk the night away.
And then if you're just
Allow me to bestow.
if you're just trying to hurt yourself,
I did my bestest.
yeah, I've like played every card here, and it still does not feel like we are anywhere close towards the goal of getting the health down to 0. Feels like you would need something that's completely not here. There are 5 cards. Is there any card here that would let you draw more cards? This summons 2 arcane wolves, which I guess then gives you
I'm taking you with me.
the possibility of doing this. Okay. Now how do I do 20 damage with 3 remaining points? What could we play before this? Play this
Bloom, we shall, through moments
and see if there's
fleeting and
maybe a
eternal.
synergy around that. But I bet there is no synergy around that.
No, your left.
Okay. That didn't activate anything.
I'm taking you with me.
Hmm.
I did my bestest.
Alright, let's give that up. I guess these do have hints, so we should look at the hints after. Should go around once, give it a try. But frankly, I'm not really having fun with these puzzles by any means. They're just annoying. Chronological reversion. Yep. All the glisten over Shadowverse has kind of disappeared. And I don't know what new content they could give me that would make me interested, because this is exactly the kind of new content that would make me interested normally. But yeah, we're like 2 hours into doing this, and I think that means we're going to probably have to just cover the news and not talk about any games at all. And select the card from your hand, put a copies of it in your hand until it's full. To start your turn, evolve this follower. Evolved. Strike, spell boost this cards in your hand 10 times. Okay. So 13 times recover 1 evolution point. Summon 4 copies of all non-neutral followers with different names. Destroy this match. Evolve them. Evolve effects will not activate. Unbodied Witch. So we want non-neutral cards. Deal 2 damage. Strike. Spell boosts everything 10 times, so that means everything would be free probably. Simply draw and evolve it. Spell boost. Maybe play a spell, evolve this follower. 2 damage to a random enemy follower. Okay. It seems stupid, but
Flowers is profound.
spell boost a card in your hands 2 times. Draw a card.
It's showtime. Blossom and flower.
Okay. This is a neutral card, so we wouldn't want to play that.
Melt away and fade.
A rebellion called life.
Verifying access.
Okay. I think that's as much as we've got. Okay. So we'll put repair modes in your hand. This would do nothing. This one is damage from effects, so we probably want to get rid of this. Fortress Guard. There's a 2/3 with ward.
There's no stopping me.
I think he hit this one.
We will greet the new dawn.
And then,
Enemy identified.
yes, you probably just... I mean, we probably want to kill one of these guys.
Shutting down.
Melt away and fade.
I think you might might as well just kill that.
Oh, did I reach?
Okay. Think we can put that on the field?
Providence of time is mine to wield.
Go ahead and do that.
I will not suffer you. Fight on, fortress will not fall.
Storm for 2/2. Storm for 3/5.
Eradicate it all! Everything but the truth! Consider this your awakening! You've done that too! If only you knew!
Death is your fate. Fight on, fortress will not comrades.
So then the question becomes, is this enough? And is that the right ones?
Providence of time.
Clearly the Chrono Witch is the right
Truth!
item. So,
There's no stopping me.
this would be 2 Delta cannons, which, yeah, we evolved maybe too much. And then we would want to be able to play this.
This will only take a nanosecond.
Flower power.
Bringing back
Next show.
some of these didn't help.
Death is your fate.
A fitting end.
Consider this your awakening!
Yeah. What does the Delta Cannon do? At the end of your turn, if at least 4 machina were played, put Delta Cannon in your hand. Evolves. Effects. None. Does 2 damage to an enemy, so... I don't know if you really needed Delta Cannons or not, but we didn't do anything with the repair modes. We didn't do anything with that. We do have this guy.
Let's thin them out.
So this could have potentially evolved, but it wouldn't have Storm. Okay. So then the question is, does doing this...
The flowers is profound.
This spell evolves 7 times to give +2/+2 and rush to all allied followers. That might be it.
A rebellion called life.
Verifying access.
Okay.
There's no stopping me.
We will greet the new dawn.
And then
Enemy identified. Shutting down.
so now we have a repair mode we could spell to do 2 damage to random enemy followers. If we killed that, Do we have anything else we'd want to play? I don't think yet. No.
Comrades!
It's showtime! Blossom and flower!
Okay. Now what?
I will not suffer you! Death is your fate!
A fitting end.
These are just storm characters. So I don't know if you. This isn't the time to potentially do this.
Flower power!
Just get rid of that.
See you at the next show!
Evolve this and hope that there's been only four killed.
The providence of time.
Okay. This is interesting because this brought that back. Spell boosts the cards in your hands. A certain number of times. Okay, so now maybe if we had Delta Cannons, deal 2 damage to the enemy, I can build it up with spell boosting a whole bunch.
Death is your fate!
Okay,
There's no stopping
see if we can pull that off.
This is strange reading.
Flower power!
Fight on, comrades!
This will only take a nanosecond.
Eradicate it all! Ever consider this your awakening!
Seeing that was a mistake because now this can't attack. So I think what I'd have to do is I'd have to figure out how to evolve a lot to get evolve 5 times first to get 2 Delta Cannons and then not do anything else. So you do this for 6 to evolve 2, unless there was some other cheaper way to evolve characters. And then probably play this.
Magic of flowers is profound!
This one's not really the evolve that matters. And it's cheaper than that. So just kind of wasting that card.
There's no stopping me!
We will break the new dawn.
Enemy identified. Shutting down.
Flower power! See you at the next show!
Melt away and fade.
Wonder if I maybe need to leave more cards alive. I don't think so.
Fight on, comrades!
now we need something else that would evolve.
The providence of time is mine to
But that
wield.
took all the... Yeah, forget it. Like, this is just way too many cards. It's too complicated for my brain, at least right now. I mean, I don't even feel like I can make a fair argument here. I could just be really, really stupid and have just completely lost all interest in playing Shadowverse to the point where I can't even solve these puzzles. Or it could be that these puzzles are designed incredibly complicated. Not particularly clever, but complicated. Let's just go one time around, look at the hint, see if that can reveal something. But I honestly, personally, would have just wanted to have been a one and done with this and just only succeeded on at least half the puzzles on the first try. I'm also kind of hating this background and the idea that they're once again pushing the anime. Okay. Increase Ian Adele's newlywed's attack and attack he who once rocked. Okay. So it's Ian and Adele newlyweds attack. How do we get Ian and Adele? Yeah, okay. So it is the Drain character.
Settle down, would you?
And then attack this guy. Would just reanimate an 8. Does this even have rush? Yeah, it's questionable whether I needed to put both of those effects. Keep this alive, but how does that help?
I'll seize this chance to prevail.
I have no idea why this might work. It didn't work. But like that doesn't do that. That already attacked.
Well, settle down, would you?
Okay. If I was to just do that. And then put this here.
Ooh-wee, this wasteland's a fixer-upper.
There's no way to evolve that, however.
Well, settle down, would you?
So if we hand that one to that,
I'll seize
still
this
have to
chance
play that.
prevail.
Oh, that was dumb.
Well, settle down, would you?
This is the only card that would give him rush. Okay. So that would kill that. Which I guess at that point you could do this.
Soaring honor.
And I
Soaring
guess at that
honor.
point you could do this.
I did my bestest.
Yeah. I don't see how this wins though. That one's already attacked, that one's already attacked. You attack here, it does 9 damage, it leaves you short 3. So even being given a hint, it still doesn't immediately jump out as a solution. Like one hint on one of the 12 things you have to do in a very specific order. Yeah, that might be the beauty of Pokemon, or just going to a new card game in general instead of one like Shadowverse that's several years old, is that there may simply just be a simplistic more simplistic game, so they can't throw major speed bumps in here. I've spent 2 hours effectively trying to do these puzzles. Use the one he who wants rocked effect to put an enemy giant skull into play. This one will reanimate this, which I had already figured that out. So then there's kind of no reason to even try this, because that hint has not given me any new useful information. Let's see. I guess next would be this one. And I guess I have 49 days to eventually, until we don't get the reward for doing these puzzles, so I could, even if the answers aren't immediately online, which I'm sure they are, I could certainly wait until somebody does put the answers on. Attack Lord Antimony with Dark Emperor to activate Dark Emperor's Lust. Words. Okay. Deal 5 damage to both leaders. Three to the enemy. So how could we simply get rid of the rest of the people with these cards? Nope, I just can't care. I just don't care enough to even try. Let's just look at the hint. Like, let's just look at the hint and let's get into some basic gameplay in the sense that I barely am even paying attention. This one has burned me. And then I am as close to a rage quit with Shadowverse as I think I can be. Evolve Chrono Witch only after 4 allied followers have been destroyed. We already knew that. Another kind of useless hint.
力が通じなかった。
Alright, and then the other thing we could do here is we could try to play against these guys, these AI characters, but I don't want to even try that now. We do have an emblem, which doesn't really matter, and a card pack that doesn't really matter, and we do want to get all these points eventually. But yeah, I cannot put any more effort into it. And I have to say, there is an annoyance here in that they just gave us new storyline content also. So there, in totality, is at least 3 different things, 2 of which are timed, that were all released in the new expansion, on top of the general hype of wanting to play with new cards and play new ranked. That they are doing a terrible job of releasing content, because it goes the game goes completely dead after a couple of weeks at most of a new expansion, and then it is dead for, it feels like 2 or 3 months until the next expansion comes out, where it would make so much more sense to not put out a new story until halfway through your new expansion, and not put out new quests until a week into your new expansion. But yeah, I am thoroughly irritated. Yeah, and the anime tie-in has 48 days to do all of that. Otherwise, we're just looking for Force Craft, and then we'll do Sword Craft and Haven Craft victories if we can get a Force Craft. Alright. Meanwhile, it's been 2 hours and 10 minutes. We've got to go through the news like crazy. So let's do it. So, Video Game Chronicles says Marvel Avengers is coming to Xbox Game Pass for console and PC this week, which I think is really just another nail in the coffin of how Marvel Avengers really failed and really shouldn't have. If anything, this is a little scary about the second dinner Marvel collectible card game. If the Marvel Avengers name doesn't sell a game completely, and you can still make bad games using the Marvel license, that means there is a chance that the second dinner Marvel card game, whenever it does come out, could be bad. Although I don't suspect it will be. I would bet it won't. Video Game Chronicles says Square Enix confirms its Tokyo Game Show reveals for Final Fantasy Origin and Forspoken. Which, alright. Xbox is cutting the price of Game Pass and Live Gold in 3 territories, those being Chile, Hong Kong, and Israel. So if you live in any of those regions, I'm sure that's nice. Also, those probably not regions that have a lot of extra money, and I could imagine it's also just a currency adjustment. Nintendo is officially, or Universal Studios Japan has officially admitted that they are adding Donkey Kong World, which we had already seen leaks of that. It says it will include a roller coaster and expand the Mario area by 70%, so it's not even as big, I guess, as the Mario area. Seems a little weird. But space is a premium, certainly, even for like a Universal Studios in Japan. So undoubtedly, since there's a decent amount of success that has shown to happen with the Super Nintendo World, which interesting that it's called Super Nintendo World, because that does kind of highlight that they're trying to evoke Super NES era games, but this is more of a Mario 64 character, and I think a lot of the references and things in the Mario World were past Super Mario World, for instance. But yeah, I do think this success will lead to a much bigger and better Universal Studios Nintendo World being made in probably the United States, Swordcraft or Havencraft now. We got a quick victory, and that's exactly what I would want. Of course, the problem now is we have none of these decks. This is yet another example of things that they have just kind of wrecked because yeah, it's another example of content that they have specifically set up so that you can't just play on day one. You have to take this extra time to rebuild your deck. Like that was ridiculously half of that deck. And the only thing I can do is just throw some things in here and hope they might work. That's the only thing I can do quickly, at least. And so what's the chance of winning here when I don't have time to think or understand what the cards do? So I just have to make a garbage deck. Like, I've never seen any other collectible card game quite like that, where so much of the cards immediately are released. There needs to be more teasing. They needed to have talked about the good cards, and people should have been making fan decks before that all happened. It shouldn't just be a surprise drop. Well, man, I'm gonna just get into a huge rant with Shadowverse. I am not happy with Shadowverse right now. Not one bit. Just demanding a lot of my time, frustrating me. Moving on, PlayStation 5 has cleared 1 million UK sales in record time. I think in an effort to just improve my timing as far as going through this, I'm going to say the next few articles are going to all be from videogameschronicles.com. And then when we hit the articles that aren't from videogameschronicles.com, I'll tell you. And I think that's as good of a system as we're gonna get. Let's see. Kina Studios says it will look into other platform releases after PlayStation. Currently, it's a timed PlayStation and Epic Games Store exclusive. I didn't even know that, frankly. And I was getting kind of hyped about this game, and I guess I had probably just heard that it was on PC and assumed that included Steam. I'm hearing a lot of good news from mainstream video game journalists about Kena, so I think there may be a decent game there. Of course, the time exclusive may kill any hype for it too, if it had any hype at all, or if it had any chance of ever having any hype.
You crossed the line.
Let's see. Xbox Series X and S has Dolby Vision for gaming support from today. More than 100 HDR titles will soon support the feature, according to Microsoft. I assume Dolby Vision for gaming is a subset of Dolby Vision, which is, I suppose, a visual aspect of what Dolby Atmos, which is more the audio aspect. It's supposed to, it's a branding mark probably more than anything. Let's see if we can see a difference here. So here's standard HDR. Here's Dolby Vision on YouTube videos. This is probably a horribly inaccurate depiction. But yeah, seems like there's probably more dynamic range, less fuzziness and fogginess. And that's kind of one of those things where you wouldn't even notice it until you had a side-by-side comparison in most cases. We do need constant improvement and pushing of standards to improve visual and audio, otherwise it's going to become a very stagnant audio-visual experience. But Dolby and DTS, which I haven't even heard anything about DTS in a long time, so I don't even know what they're doing these days, if they are still around. We're constantly pushing the concept that things would sound better and look better. TV producers and monitor manufacturers really have more effects these days as far as whether something looks good. And there is a danger of things just getting too anime, in a sense that it will just be way too bright colors and not depicting realistic images anymore. But I'm really the last person to complain about that, because I love the bright colors, and I feel like I'm probably getting poorer eyesight as I age, so bright colors are welcome. You would need a it says to enable Dolby Vision, users need to enable their compatible television game settings such as automatic low latency mode and variable refresh rate. To check if your display supports Dolby Vision, press the Xbox button to open the guide, then go to Settings, General TV, and Display Options, 4K TV details. I don't have a 4K TV, and honestly, I don't think I am anywhere close to getting one. I am much happier having three 1080p TVs than the idea of getting a 4K TV. My lifestyle would have to probably change. I just have to have a lot more free time to get like a 4K TV and then get back into watching a lot of movies. And I just don't foresee that happening anytime soon. Sony may be preparing to bring PlayStation 5 games to game streaming to PC and PS4 via PlayStation Now. This is a patent. They're planning on using NVMe drives to stream games. These patents, though, often are put out just because somebody had an idea. It's just a corporate form of patent trolling more than anything. The bigger issue there to take from that, I think, is do you trust Sony, as it is now, to possibly successfully make a streaming service for their games? And I would say I wouldn't trust them to do that. I think that would come out very badly. Sony's online services as they stand are not particularly great. So it would be ridiculous to expect that they would somehow manage to do even better. See, October's 2021 Xbox Live games with gold titles have been confirmed. Let's see. It's what is this? Well, we'll just read the names. AAERO, Arrow, Hover, Castlevania Harmony of Despair, and Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Let's see.
Let my melody reach your ears.
But that doesn't look like any of these games that are being shown. This is a trailer, I think, for the September games. Harmony of Despair. It's probably the one that's going to be fairly interesting. Although I wouldn't be surprised if there's some other interest in the other games too.
Your shining faith will carry you.
It looks like I'm up.
Let's see. A former PlayStation exec's hit industry memoir is now a podcast. British veteran Shahid Ahmad attracts thousands of engagements with his story. This, to me, feels like a major fall from grace more than anything else. I don't know if perhaps this is a way that somebody could retire and get out of being a programmer or a PlayStation exec. But the thing about being an executive, being in that management level, is that the second you're out of that, you're basically a complete and total failure unless you're retired. It's not, most execs don't have a lot that they can claim they had much of a hand in actually creating and producing. They're usually just overseeing things. Management executive levels are only attractive slightly because of the amount of influence and power you have. And if you're making a podcast, you basically have very little influence and power. If anything, it screams that this person is probably a little egomaniacal, thinking people want to hear his story. And maybe he has a really good story, but the traditional way to do this would be to write a book and be semi-retired writing a book, not making a podcast. It would be weird if that is the new way in which things are done. But I doubt that really is going to be it. Of course, my experience with podcasts are almost all comedy, so I don't listen to any more like drier, insider podcast. Well, I do listen to like several IT podcasts, but I've stopped listening to them also a long time ago. I think when you compare what the Nintendo of America Reggie Fils-Aimé president did, which was to retire and write a book and try to be a published author, that seems way more traditional and way more logical than making a podcast. And it's got to be, just because of the subject matter, a limited podcast. It's going to eventually stop telling that story. I could almost see the argument, though, that maybe you're just not a good writer, so you're a better speaker, and that's why you decide to make a podcast. But you probably still should have just been dictating to a ghostwriter what the story would have been. But yeah, this feels really weird as an idea. Yeah, and I feel like there's a danger here that either Video Game Chronicle or GameDeveloper.com, more likely, are going to now start listening to this podcast and having something to say every Like, I feel like we're gonna get a news article about this person's podcast every week or every time he releases a new podcast, and I feel like this is something that's going to end up taking up a lot of people's mainstream video game journalists' time, instead of having them try and play video games and be in line with a normal gamer, which a normal gamer almost certainly is not going to listen to a podcast from a person that, no offense, I've never even heard of before. And they call him a former PlayStation exec, but they're not even listing what his final job title was. Yep. They are, of course, going to lean a little SJW. I'm sure he leans that way too, saying he overcome poverty and racism, which in the UK, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. It's his story to tell, and it's kind of pointless to question it, but yeah, I would be more interested if he said he was a programmer and he was making a podcast talking about how game programming went, if he was actually trying to teach something, because biographical podcasts really are just trying to evoke empathy, but they're not really going to educate you or tell you anything new or different.
Someone as beautiful as her could never understand.
So, yeah, that's weird. And then a new PlayStation studio, Firesprite, has acquired Fabric Games.
Wretched I feel.
The UK-based studio previously collaborated on survival horror game The Persistence, which I've never even heard. It's kind of weird that PlayStation of California would not eventually try to shutter and de-emphasize the Sony PlayStation of Europe in the same way that they've pretty much done with the Sony of Japan offices.
We're together forever.
Alright.
It looks like I'm up.
Do we want to do another one? Not yet. So, alright, we're on to the Gamatsu articles. The Caligula Effect 2 has a character trailer. What's most interesting about this to me is the fact that the Caligula Effect 2 is not out yet. I would have kind of sworn that it had just come out and then disappeared. The characters definitely look way different now. They were all in white originally, so now that they're in these black school outfits, it almost makes me wonder if they graduated from high school to college, and that's why they're in different uniforms. But yeah, the Caligula Effect 1 came and went with a little fanfare, so it'd be kind of hard to
My thunderbolts shall guide you.
it would be hard to catch up and try and play it. Play the first game to get around to playing the second game. But that is, I guess, true for a lot of instances. Do this. Do this. And then do this.
You're in good hands.
Let's see. Type Moon Times Volume 6 is set for September 29th, featuring Melty Blood Type Lumnia and Tsukahime, a piece of blue glass moon. So, more announcements for announcements from Gamatsu. The following ones are all going to be Gamatsu. Danganronpa Decadence, Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp further details the game systems. I don't know if you really need more details as far as
No idea
how the
pitiful and wretched I feel.
side games that are coming
Now you've done it.
out for the Switch might affect, might have things work. Yeah, I don't see anything here. Just skimming over the thumbnails that look particularly surprising. If anything, the most surprising thing is just like the zoom in on some of these images is way too blurry and looks awful. And these would all be board pieces where you land on the Monopoly board and or the board game board, and it causes different effects. Yep, this is definitely a case of them spending way too much time trying to hype the game, which I'm not sure you're really gaining any new sales on Danganronpa. I think the audience that likes Danganronpa will be there on day one for the most part, and
Away from me.
everybody else is either going to say no to Danganronpa just because it looks too anime, or they'll say yes eventually whenever they get around to it, which is probably the category I'm going to be in. I forgot I could evolve things.
Done for. Stay away from me.
Let's see. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin version 1.4.0 update trailer and details are available. You can check that out on Gamatsu if you're interested. I'm not.
I loved her. She was
A,
everything to
let's see. The Yuri Kill the Culmination Games has a teaser trailer. This game is a shoot 'em up game despite its visuals, and they have been advertising it quite a lot. In fact, Gamatsu, I've skipped a lot of their articles in the past month or two because so many of their announcements are just more information about the exact same games over and over again. They're really not curating their press releases, and they're taking just every single press release given to them, which on one hand that's probably exactly what I would want, but it can get annoying to say the least.
truly shine.
Like there is
We're together forever.
one game that is literally putting out a daily news press release and they're reporting on it.
I need. Is that how you treat a lady?
Let's see. Jim Drops Game Studios has a direct set for October 4th. I've never heard of Jim Drops. It's very weird to start seeing companies have direct announcements when they're so small. This is tagged as a PS4, Xbox, and Switch and PC game, so maybe that's true, maybe that won't be true. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shiny Pearl trailers, details, and screenshots. Poketech, Amity Squares, and Poffins. Yep. I assume that Pokemon will be Pokemon and it will be fine. And that's my level of interest there. Pokemon Legends Arceus trailer details and screenshots. Arc Phone, Alpha Pokemon, Rideable Pokemon, and Jubilife Village. This Pokemon game is more interesting, but it's weird because one was assuming from the looks of it that this was set in an ancient feudal Japan, but now if all of a sudden you have a Arc Phone, whatever that is, then that implies to me that maybe the Pokemon universe, at least in part, has gone back to nature, which maybe you could have assumed that by the style of their clothing too, but yeah, this is going to be weird if all of a sudden it turns out that no, this is just an alternate this is the future of the Pokemon world, is that they, instead of going into the future and becoming even more technologically advanced as they were going, has been some mini apocalypse that has destroyed a lot of technology. Which that can be an interesting story, and it does stop them from having to just create even more technological advancements over and over again. And because Pokemon's such a long-running series, you would almost expect them to have been in a Blade Runner-esque future at this point. Because you would expect that the games are not moving in real time. Let's see. A game called Pumpkin Jack. Pumpkin Jack is coming to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series on October 27th. Have we seen this from Head Up Games? Is this a game that existed before and is getting re-released? Remastered? I mean, this looks like a game. Real game. It's kind of weird that this is the first I've heard about it. I guess Pumpkin Jack may have come out last year. And so now you're getting a free upgrade to the PlayStation 5 Xbox Series version. Okay. Let's see. The Fair Rune Collection is coming to the PS4 on September 28th. It's currently available on the Switch and PC. Don't recognize this game though, so let's check it out on Steam. Okay, well, one look at it tells me that it's very much inspired by Game Boy visuals, and you can see it's not really relevant either, with 41 reviews since 2018. There is a lot of room for these kinds of games to certainly come out and get re-released and make and give off the impression that they were super popular, super successful games, but in reality they were attempts that went nowhere. And maybe at some point I would stop using relevancy as a reason to decide whether to play a game or not, but I don't think I'm anywhere close to that at the moment. Earth Defense Force 6 has been delayed to 2022 in Japan, but it has been also confirmed for the PS5 and PS4. The Earth Defense games have always been pretty bad, so a delay is probably welcome. Toy Soldiers HD has been delayed to October 21st. Another delay. I don't know if this is the third or fourth delay at this point. The Hot Wheels game is out in kind of like preview for reviewers, I think, at the moment. So I'm just kind of waiting to see if the game has microtransactions in it. Although I would say at this point, the Hot Wheels game, even though it is getting a lot of praise, it is so obviously designed to have real-world currency, loot box opening effects, and it is simulating opening loot boxes with all the flashes and things like that, that even if it never actually had any microtransactions at all, and it just has the DLC, which even that's still kind of sucky, there is a real legitimate argument to not letting your kids play the game because it is feeding directly into that microtransaction gambling mentality. In the same way that you wouldn't have a person who is addicted to gambling playing poker with pennies or fake chips. Like, you just wouldn't want to reinforce those behaviors, remind people of those behaviors, teach people those behaviors. I think that's a little too nefarious. But I might be willing to overlook it because it does look like a great game, but I don't know if parents should. Like, it's going to be up to every parent, obviously, but I kind of wonder if parents shouldn't boycott the Hot Wheels game just because of the animations. And honestly, there probably should be some more legislation saying you cannot simulate things that are commonly depicted or commonly connected towards loot boxes, even if there is no real world money. You must create an entirely different system. There should honestly maybe be limitations completely or completely forbidding random chance in kid games at all. Maybe it should just be straight up a unlock path or a shop where you are guaranteed to get what you want. But the other concern certainly would be that they have put in all the mechanics to have microtransactions, so 6 months later after the reviews, all of a sudden they'll add them in after the fact. And we've seen that happen so many times that I would be very cautious on potentially playing the Hot Wheels game. And frankly, I just don't trust Hasbro. Moving on, Toho Gensho Wanderer Lotus Labyrinth R for PS4 and Switch launches September 30th worldwide. Again, a game I haven't heard anything about yet, so maybe we're starting to get more new announcements because of the Tokyo Game Show timeline. It looks to me like a dungeon crawling RPG type game. Maybe not so much even dungeon crawling. Yep. I am not particularly impressed by those visuals jumping around. Yeah, this is the game that has a new announcement every single day. Shin Megami Tensei 5 English voice cast has been revealed. So, if you know any of these people, then you might be interested in that. I watched a YouTube video talking about the Rooster Teeth anime wannabe series Ruby RWBY, and yeah, he really laid down the story and showed how much of a mess that story is and how very little story there actually is in Ruby. So with that, I think that probably closed the door as far as ever really wanting to play a Ruby based game. Honestly, looking at the animation in Ruby 2, I don't think the animation is particularly great.
Let us play together.
What they probably should do is just license the Ruby concept to a more proper animation house that can have proper writing, and then somebody could start all over with those character models and just start over from scratch. If there's any value in Ruby, which I'm not sure there is much value in Ruby as a intellectual property, because you could probably make something very similar to it and not get sued into oblivion, since all the characters are based on like Red Riding Hood and Snow White and a couple other characters.
This here's all mine.
Let's see, moving on, Gamatsu has PlayStation Plus free games for October announced, being Hell Let Loose, PGA Tour 2K21, and Mortal Kombat X. I think we'd already talked about that. Then we have some game developer.com articles.
'This here's all mine.
'Cause 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 ' Rereading this article, we had already talked about it. Good Old Games warns users of a review bombing after Hitman sparked the MMRO. It says, we will not tolerate review bombing and will be removing posts that do not follow our review guidelines. Which I wonder if this is, if at some point we might hear a story. It would be really crazy for Good Old Games to do this, but we might hear a story of somebody getting disallowed from making reviews in the future, or getting their account terminated from Good Old Games in general, because a review they made has been labeled a review bomb. And again, to just reiterate this story, I don't think that the phrase review bomb should ever be used at this point. It has been more abused and misused than any useful implementation of the term has come about from it. Like, I've seen one instance, like, so far where there is clearly a legitimate review bomb in my mind, and then I've seen at least 4 instances of something being called a review bomb and it not being really a review bomb, because it is reviews about the actual content of the game. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. GameDeveloper.com says Activision Blizzard has pledged $18 million to settle the equal employment. I don't know what the OC stands for, Harassment and Equal Employment Office of California, I bet. Harassment and discrimination lawsuit. So that pretty much tells you their accountants have come up with the lowball offer. And then there's a quote, "We'll continue to be vigilant in our commitment to the elimination of harassment and discrimination in the workplace." I'm not 100% sure if the California lawsuit really is being done out of a true concern for employees, or if this is just straight up the state of California trying to make some cash. But if the Equal Employment Office of California did take the money and then, like, really not implement any penalties other than that, that would show that they were just looking for money.
You stand between me and glory.
But almost certainly they're going to demand a lot more, or fine a lot more. I think this could be in the hundreds of millions,
Is my only salvation.
maybe even $500 million or so.
Now, let us play together.
And throwing money at a problem is kind of the traditional action that we always see on TV of somebody who has been caught, is that, oh, I can just buy my way out of this problem and not really make any changes.
It looks like I'm up. You wouldn't.
Let's go ahead and evolve.
You were done for.
Let's see, GameDeveloper.com says the Outriders developer People Can Fly is going to create AA titles as part of its annual release strategy. I'm not sure if People Can Fly is the same company that made Bulletstorm.
War, a most profitable trade.
Or not. So I guess what I would want to do is do just a quick Google search.
It won't be long now.
Here, youngling.
No way.
Yeah, let's see. What games did they make? They're saying Outriders is the most recent one. Yeah, I know them from Bulletstorm. and the Painkiller series. But yeah, there is also, I guess, a question about how many people still work at People Can Play, and that is becoming more and more the issue with any game company, is that it's become generational now, where whoever worked on one game is almost certainly left and gone to a different company or retired.
Thunderbolts shall guide you, if they don't kill you first.
You wouldn't. Let's talk about this, shall we?
Let's see. Seems like all the games they've ever made are shooters.
Parting gift. Almighty
And
glory.
Outriders is
War, a most profitable trade.
the one that was like the weirdo people, I think. They had these kind of like magical abilities, and they weren't really heroes or anything. They were just,
Between me
I think, taking missions.
About this, shall we?
I mean, it looks really interesting, this game Outriders, but
They don't call me this.
inevitably this game came out to very little fanfare and
My secret technique.
was
Yes, mil espadas.
not well received. Not enough that people are talked about it. Of course, I'm increasingly having less and less of a source for getting an idea about what games people are talking about. Speaking of a source that that I was using in the past and am trying to move away from using, Giant Bombcast this week brought back Ben Brode and literally made no comment as to why he left or why he came back. So, yeah, they're keeping that all close to the vest, I guess. So, yeah. And frankly, this is pretty much just a, like, 6 month... It feels like he literally was suspended for 6 months. And they pretended like he left and pretended like he came back. That's the only thing that makes sense. Although, otherwise, the other thought would be that there was just some major conflict or major budgeting issue where they couldn't afford to pay both Ben Brode and the 3 people in Giant Bomb East who all left the company.
I'll get it right this time.
I wouldn't be super surprised if the reason Ben Brode actually came back is to be a slap in the face for the people who left.
The greater your sin, the crispier I make you.
Moving on, GameDeveloper.com says Sweeney wants a universal networking format standards for the metaverse.
Mighty flurry.
Tim Sweeney.
Ready for true
I'm hopeless.
I'm handing you over to the gods.
Excuse me. Yeah. We already have universal networking format standards. If anything, like most standards, we already have too many of them to begin with. So the idea of saying we need something new is a little silly. There might be a case where you could add some improvements to a 802.11 standard, but I think probably game developers in particular aren't going to be able to add any features or any improvements that other people haven't thought about and done better. And in all fairness, wired Ethernet, wireless, both of them are running into just absolute limitations on the amount of frequencies in the air that you can send without losing signal, or in the wired case, the amount of frequencies you can send over the type of wiring without losing signal. So it is hit a point where you are potentially better off just having two 10 gigabit network connections, which is still a ton of internal LAN connection speed, instead of trying to make one 20 gigabit connection. And frankly, the network interface cards and the chips to do that speed as far as networking is getting bottlenecked by the PCI Express lanes that it can connect to. So unless you could get Intel and AMD and other chip manufacturers to put a bigger express lane for networking alone, something that would directly connect to the chips, we are kind of maxed out. And the internet in general is not slow because of a lack of networking standards. It's not slow because there's just bad code, although there probably is a decent amount of bad code. It's slow because the investment in the infrastructure to have the faster connections and maintain the wires has not been put into it by companies like AT&T and Verizon and all the other internet service providers in the United States and around the world. There is an obvious slowdown that will happen always when crossing over large swaths of land or sea. So yeah, even if we do get a Starlink-like system where everything is sent through satellites around the world, even that is still going to be fairly slow. And honestly, we are closer than you would think. I believe, I personally believe, I think we're closer to quantum entanglement networking being a real thing. Like, I've seen several laboratory experiments where it's actually been successfully done for one quantum bit. Theoretically, you would want at least a million quantum bits to get gigabit networking. But when quantum entanglement, if quantum entanglement networking becomes a thing and can be scaled down so it's done inside of a device like a cell phone or inside of a chip, once that happens, then as far as our understanding of how the universe works, that kind of networking technology would work anywhere in the universe whatsoever, instantaneously, no wires needed. It would overnight put internet service providers mostly out of business. You would still probably have to have a central hub location where your quantum entangled bit has its paired off quantum entangled bit going to some facility, and that facility is then converting that quantum entangled information down to something else so it can be routed and sent to the next device. But honestly, it would probably just be one giant facility or a few of them. And that probably at that point would limit speeds at such a high point that people would never really have to talk about speed again. But also that's very potentially a thing that's not going to come out until 50, 60 years from now, or maybe 200 years from now, if ever. But I suspect will happen quicker than I thought it was going to. Alright, so I'm going to go through a few of these games on Steam, but I'm just going to say yes and no. Like things like this, we can see I'm never going to have any interest in it. It's pointless to scroll down and look at the price and see the languages. So I'm sorry if I'm not going to be as informative normally, but I'm trying to finish up Kung Fu Captain, which is a soccer game, which I think there was a movie called Shaolin Soccer. $6.29 English and Chinese only. I think we'll say no to that. Jigsaw puzzles we can say no to. Here we have Nykra, Nykra. This actually looks like there might be a game here. It's $19.99 English only. I'm not signed in. Darn it. Okay. Also, my computer wants to reboot. But isn't that always the case? Ray gun chess, I think we can say no to. Early access VR. Free. RX Racing 2021 Pro. Looks like garbage. $9.99 English only. Keyword is Spider's Thread. It's tagged as a puzzle game. Looks like it probably is a horror adventure game. It's $15.29 English full audio. I would believe that. And of course I'm not winning. Here we have a game called Solstopia, or Solstopia 5, which looks like it's an anime girl with a boob tattoo and a sword. I don't think there's enough being shown here. Like the actual gameplay seems to just be a hack and slash gameplay element on a platform. So trying to be something like an Onichambra, you can customize the character's skin color apparently, which that's an interesting effect. But yeah, I don't think there's much of a game here. It's $2.39 English, allegedly full audio. And I'm gonna put it on a follow list just to see if anybody reviews it, but almost certainly, even if it got reviewed well, I imagine it would be reviewed well for selling itself on cleavage more than anything else. Here we have a game called Storage Chase, which looks like nothing. 79 cents, bunch of languages. Unicorns on unicycles. Is this a multiplayer only game? Probably. It's kind of a funny idea, but it feels like more of an idea that would be a cutaway gag in a cartoon than something you can make a full game around. It does do something slightly different than what you would expect from just a Smash Brothers game. $12.99 single player it says, but it's clearly focused on multiplayer, and for that reason I have to say no to it. That would be very weird to try and find somebody to play such a weird game with. Here we have a game called The Market of Light, which really just looks like it's some photos that have really zoomed in. Yeah. It feels like somebody had some 3D renders of environments and they wanted to show it off, and they instead decided to try and sell it as a game. Well, it's free, so I guess the price is right, at least. I got some Steam trading cards for 3D Mark, the program, to test the benchmark, your graphics card and your CPU and all of that. Weird to get trading cards for an app, certainly. And it's not like I've run 3D Mark anytime lately. And I know you can get random cards based on having played a game a long time ago, but you very rarely do. Here's a game that looks like it's a collection of mini games that apparently was originally on the Switch, and they didn't even bother to change the trailer to remove the Switch part. $17.99. It would have been so easy to just go into the video and crop it out and remove the, just clip, I guess crop is the wrong word, clip out the first few seconds. Here we have a game called Lunar Lich, I guess. Looks like an RPG Maker game. $2.39 English and Chinese. I think we can say no to that.
You could use some shine yourself.
Here we have a game called Unarmed Area, which looks like just an asset flip first person shooter. $11.24 English only. Here we have Tap Tap Builder. Yeah, mixing a city sim and a tapping game does not interest me. $3.49, bunch of languages. What's funny here is also they're saying tap tap the download button. There is no download button on Steam. So they're just using ad copy almost certainly from a cell phone listing. Here we have a game called Ball Ranger, which looks like garbage. $3.99 English, Japanese, Chinese. Here we have a Tale for Anna, which looks like a kid's game. Several different kind of puzzle things. Looks like there's real polish here. And $9.34 English, German, Chinese, and Russian. I'll put this on the follow list. There is more leniency I'm willing to give a publisher and developer I haven't heard of before, compared to say somebody who is on their 100th hidden object game or adventure game. This game, Hope Lake, I recognize this as one of the ones that I think I put on my wish list because it was a more horror focused hidden object game and looked different, certainly compared to your standard hidden object games. I may very well have taken it off my wish list though, in just a general lack of interest or growing disinterest in playing hidden object games. I could have evolved something there, and should have. Here we have one called Concordia Digital Edition, which looks like it's a board game, looks like it's mixed. I think this is something where we'd have to put it on the follow list. It's from Acram Digital, not to be confused with Asmodee Digital. It's $16.71, requires PlayFab account and third-party EULA, which is asking certainly a lot for just playing a digital version of a board game. Here we have Movers in the Warehouse, which looks like nothing. $5.99 English, Portuguese, Brazil. Here we have Connect Tank, which 4-player gameplay. Yeah, 4 people playing at the same time controlling a tank from the inside. $29.99. Whole bunch of languages. English, French, German, Japanese, and Chinese. Not that many languages. But from the looks of it, 1 to 4, get in a tank. So there is a single player where, as a single player character, you'd run around and try and maintain the equipment in the tank. almost like FTL, but maybe a little bit smarter than FTL.
You are done for.
Yeah, I have to question
Shine yourself.
if I have enough of a legitimate reason to just immediately dismiss it.
The
And
smiles are not free.
I don't think I do, so I'm going to put it on the follow list.
I pray
Well,
that you will be freed from
I got a free
suffering.
victory there by just running into somebody else who wasn't playing, and the battle pass is totally reset. I feel like the last battle pass in particular, I probably did not accomplish anywhere near as much as they wanted me to. Here we have a game called Procedural Soccer, which we can pretty much dismiss immediately. English, Japanese, Polish, that's an odd combination of language. Here we have Grand Attrition, which looks like garbage. 339, English only.
Is fighting and despair
We have a
all
game
you
called
know?
In Sound Mind, which looks like a horror game. It might be a horror asset flip, but it actually feels like there's more going on here, so put that on the follow list. Here we have a game called Yoli, which is tagged as a tower defense game. Yeah, and that's pretty much what it seems like it kind of is you're standing in one place attacking people. So you are the tower. $1.19 English only. No to that. Here we have Limnus Gate. Time manipulation first person shooter by the tags. Rated very positively. $19.99 online PvP only, so not my type of game. Here we have Away to Survival series, which I feel like that was already on my follow list, but I'll double check. It's mixed reviewed, so it's not getting received particularly well. Next we have a game called Fun Platformer, which looks very low effort. $5.59 English only. Requires a third-party account. That's a big no. Here we have Tower Tactics Liberation, which looks like a simplistic visuals tower defense game. They're calling it a deck building game and roguelikes elements on top of being a tower defense game. Trying to figure out who this character is. Yeah, Shadowverse has too many characters in it. Yeah, compared to the cell phone game I played, Destiny Child, which I talk about way too much, I can literally tell you the name of every single character in that game. You would be hard pressed to catch me out forgetting even a single character. Whereas there's no personalities behind these icons, and you're given a name, but it doesn't even tell you where they're from. So I don't know if this is supposed to be from the anime. I don't know if this is supposed to be from some crossover. I don't know what it's supposed to be from at all.
Your shining faith will carry you.
I can tell you that Eris here, I think is her name, yeah, is the main character. So they've given her personality in the main story. I recognize her at least enough. Not much of a personality, but at least something. Anyways, I don't really even have time to rant, so yep. We have a game on Steam here called Detective AI or Detective Owl. Take your pick. Either one, it looks like garbage. It's free. English, Portuguese, Brazil. Here we have Spinning Invaders, which just is a Space Invaders clone. $4.49 English only. Here we have Core Alpha, which just looks like an asset flip first person shooter of no interest. $3.99 English and Russian. New World is out, but it is fairly mixed, and this is from Amazon Games. So I'm going to put this on the follow list, but really at this point as an MMO, actually there's no reason. Because it's an MMO, I can dismiss it immediately. It is relevant certainly to say that New World, though on Steam, clearly not succeeding very well. It has that easy anti-cheat and a third-party EULA. And this is the first Amazon Games. And I'm not sure there's a particularly welcoming attitude in my mind as far as a potential increase in Amazon Games being on Steam. I guess I want all games to be on Steam in general, but also Amazon owning Twitch and doing the whole Twitch Prime gaming thing kind of felt like they were trying to compete with Steam, although I think they found very quickly that they really couldn't compete with Steam, and then moved Twitch and Twitch Prime Gaming separately, so now it's just Prime Gaming. And I wouldn't be surprised if Twitch itself gets sold off from Amazon in the next 5 to 10 years. I wouldn't be surprised if Twitch, instead of being sold off, just gets shut down. Like, one of the things Amazon.com does during Prime Day is have people make videos and host videos talking about the products for sale. What they don't do is have them use Twitch as a platform to host and show off those videos in any real way. So there's a whole separate video streaming service that is specifically for Amazon.com, which is competing with Twitch, although not really competing because it's for a completely different reason.
Lose yourself in this final dance.
Let's see. GameDeveloper.com says Fabric Games has been acquired by the PlayStation-owned studio Firesprite. I think we'd already talked about this. So a subsidiary has acquired a subsidiary. Gamatsu says Cotton 2, Cotton Boomerang, and Guardian Force for PS4 and Switch launches September 30th worldwide. Let's see.
Have summoned the blade of purgation here.
Lib Retro RetroArch has a video showing off Command & Conquer Red Alert Retaliation on the PlayStation 1 being emulated, which, yeah, that is probably some of the stuff that did not get ported over to the remasters of Red Alert, is things that would have been console ports. Now, almost certainly most of the console ports for any game are worse than the PC versions in the cases of games that were targeted.
You're done for.
I don't think I'm gonna win here.
I'll see you in purgatory.
GameDeveloper.com says Kepler, a new publisher co-owned by developers, has raised $120 million in funding. Yeah, we have a game on Steam called DAPT, D-A-P, which might be something. It looks a little weird. Action, adventure, horror. It's tagged as surreal. 11/19 English only. Yeah, I think a game like this has to be put on the fall list because it's just weird enough that there might be something there. GameDeveloper.com has a featured blog. Your games are on sale too often? ? Players say that's unlikely. Here's why. It's probably fine to put your games on sale as frequently as you can. There are stores in... Maybe I should do a drop shadow as the thumbnail. I don't think so, but I do like that effect. There are stores, sorry, I got distracted there. There are stores in the United States that literally have half of the store half off every week. And there are some laws saying you can't say something is half off if it's never actually listed at the full price. But you can definitely have a store where everything that has a serial number ending in an odd number is half off this week, and everything that is serial number on an even number is half off next week. And that's basically what they do. It is pretty much the status quo that everything on Amazon.com is listed as being discounted by some amount, which honestly they should probably be fined for that, because there is a level of dishonesty there. But I'm sure for 5 minutes it is listed with the discount not being available, and it's definitely the status quo of places like Walmart to have everything marked as being on sale or cheaper. So it is very much the standard method of operating as far as capitalism goes in the United States, for things to be almost always half off, and it's just become expected. Now, in reality, half off of something that's marked up 500 times more than it should be is not a real discount. And if you were not going to buy something in the first place and a sale has convinced you to buy something, you've spent more money, not less money. But I do feel like games cannot really feel like they are, cannot and should not feel like they are this high level art that should be paid for the price that they're asking. Games honestly are already asking for a fairly high price, and there's just more competition and more games to buy than there once was. Even if you account for inflation, the idea that you were paying somewhere closer to $500 to get an NES and Super Mario Bros. 1 with the NES would have been considerably less money spent that Christmas holiday in 83 or 85 when you would have gotten the NES. I think 85, thereabout. Because one 500 purchase of one game, when there was probably only 5 games available for purchase at all during the launch window of the NES, is way, way different than looking at Steam, where you could easily spend $500 on a lot of games. And a better comparison is if you were to buy a Switch for a kid today. Sure, you're paying $300, maybe $350 for the Switch, but then you're probably going to get, let's say, 6 or 7 $60, $50 games, just for easy math. Let's say they were all $50 games and you got 7 of them. 50 times 7 is another $350. So just because the world has gotten better and there are more options now, you in reality are going to end up spending $700 buying a kid a Switch in 2021, compared to buying a kid an NES system and giving them only one game. And certainly kids getting an NES system and one game were probably way more appreciative and less demanding for more games than they are today. And then at a certain level, that's a good thing. It's a good thing there's more options and more entertainment, and people can just do more with their lives. But it does... It is part of the calculation you should think about as far as pricing your games. And I think a lot of game developers think that their game is the only game somebody was going to buy, and unless you're just a Halo player and you just play the latest Halo game, that's highly unlikely to be the case. And even in that case, most of the gamer bros who do play Halo are also playing the latest version of would be playing the latest version of Call of Duty, and at least a couple other games that they still would be
So, this is my fate after
playing at least 2 or 3. Gamatsu says Black Widow Recharged has been announced for the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This looks interesting, but I'm not sure what kind of game it is. Really? A twin stick shooter game
Ready to summon.
where I guess you're playing as a spider. So it's kind of an Asteroids clone with a spider theme. I probably still wouldn't want to play a game like this, but at least it feels like they're trying to do something different. I'm not sure.
Sided defense will repel
A lot of people want to play a game as a Black Widow, even if you don't suffer from arachnophobia. Gamatsu says Relayer has a 14-minute overview trailer. Limited edition has been announced for Japan. This looks like a mech game, if I was to guess, and there seems to be no indication that it's coming to the West yet. And it's the kind of game that might not ever come to the West. A lot of menus, certainly. I would say I do think that the newer generations of gamers in Japan are tending to move away from the accounting software feel that a lot of old JRPGs had. There's less just number manipulation going on. Let's see, Video Game Chronicle says Battlefield 2042 PC requirements have been revealed ahead of October's beta. If you're interested, check that out at Video Games Chronicles.
is only the beginning.
And then Game Developer says Amazon's MMORPG New World has seen over 700,000 concurrent players at launch day. But it's not getting particularly well reviewed, which maybe that highlights server issues and possibly even hype around
My crystal sword will bring a new tomorrow.
around the new game.
I'll be back.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Here we have a game on Steam called SGS Africa Corps Tunisia, which, yeah, this doesn't look like enough of a game to interest me. It's a card-based war simulator game. I don't know how many of those I'd actually want to play. Like 21, 24, bunch of languages. Like I don't know how many war style games I want to play in general. That's what I mean by that. A card-based game simulating war is probably less objectionable than just a standard let's draw cards. Here we have a game on Steam called Steel Assault, which looks like a Contra clone.
Shade imaginable.
1349, whole bunch of languages.
The future is only the beginning.
There might be a game here, but the fact that it's not widescreen on some of the videos feels a little rough. Certainly. If you told me this was an old game, I would believe you, but I think it's brand new. Here we have a game called Maritime Calling, which seems to be a simulation game of being a sailor. Looks uninteresting. Early access $14.99. I'm not trying to go through all the games today. I'm just trying to get through of them to go through all the news. I am trying to go through all the news. Not all the games. This game solo looks like nothing. $2.99 English only. Here we have a game called Unmetal, which feels like it's trying to be a Metal Gear Solid clone. I don't know if I really have a fandom for this. It's $15.99 English and Spanish language apparently. Very positive though, so I don't think I can just dismiss it.
This is my fate after all.
A parody of some of the early Metal Gear Solid games might be very popular. Here we have a jigsaw puzzle called Pieces of Beauty. We can easily dismiss that. $1.19 English only. Here we have Rectitude, I guess, or yeah, I guess that would be how you pronounce it. Looks like a low effort visual novel. $8.99 English only. If anything, this might just be one of those cases where it's telling a story that's not a romance visual novel, and thus it's boring. I mean, even the sci-fi Japanese visual novels tend to have such a high focus on romance or an really interesting story or attractive characters that you really just cannot drop the ball on any one factor. Let's see.
The real battle begins. 1, 2, guys, smile. I'm out of cash.
Next we have a game on Steam called Them and Us, which feels like it's trying to look like The Last of Us, but it's also rated very positively overall, although it's mixed recently, so maybe something new happened to it. That being said,
Seen nothing yet.
it's $3.99. There's a fan service lewd costume pack for $3.99 on top of that. This does feel a lot like what you probably want to approach as far as the level of graphics if you're going to remaster Alone in the Dark or try and make something that felt a lot like a Resident Evil 1 or 2. I guess I have to put that on the follow list. And then we have a game called Eden New Dawn, which looks like just a voxel first-person shooter, Minecraft clone type game. Oh, by the way, Minecraft is releasing a new version. One of the people that works on Minecraft said make sure to make backups because there is a higher chance that it will mess up your old land chunks as it tries to generate the new land styles, the new land chunks.
An opportunity for growth.
Let's see. Okay, hit this, I guess,
You're in good hands.
and then hit this.
Why is this so hard? I'm hopeless.
Here we have a game on Steam called Warped Frontier, which is tagged as a point-and-click adventure game. I'm a sucker for point-and-click adventure games, so there might be something to this. The graphics look a little rough, but not terrible.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Here we have a game called Mindspace, which just looks like a space first-person shooter. Probably asset flip game. Early access, 1999. English allegedly full audio.
Imaginable.
Here we have a game called The Year of Springs, which this looks like a very different art style. Maybe a lot more kid friendly. There might be an idea there. Although I'm not sure if kids ever, of any culture, anywhere, are actually going to want to play visual novels and just do all that reading.
I envy you.
Here we have a game called Super Secret, which seems to be a puzzle game. It's a little rough in the visuals, but it does feel like somebody is trying something here. If you told me this was a student project, I might be willing to cut it some slack. $1.19, single player only, third party EULA. It's cheap at the very least, so there's something nice about that. I'll put it on the follow list, but almost certainly it will get dismissed and ignored. Here we have Close Quarters Supremacy, the Legis. This looks like an asset flip first person shooter. Feels like something that would come out in the 90s. Although I say 90s a lot of times, and that's just what I feel the time frame would have been, and often I think I'm going to be wrong there. My memory, as far as the decades, I think is pretty bad. $14.99 English only. I think we can say no to that fairly easily. Like EU just asked when Indiana Jones Fate of Atlantis originally came out, and I went and looked it up, and it came out in 1992. I would have leaned closer to 88 for that time frame. But I would have been guessing in general. But yeah, a lot happened in the 90s decade as far as the improvement of games and how they look. Indiana Jones and Fate of Atlantis is a great example of that, because that was one of the prominent talkie games that started to have voice acting in it for a point-and-click adventure. Here we have a game on Steam called Pretty Girls Breakout. I'll put this on the follow list, but you would want to be careful here. Because this is Zoo Corporation, which some of their games are not that great, and it's just like the same anime girls being put in these low effort images, and there's not really a good reason to spend $4.79 in most people's mind just to play a breakout game that probably doesn't even have that many levels. Zoo is the maker of the Pretty Girls series in general, and some of them were alright, but a lot of them were kind of dumb. Pretty Girls Mahjong Solitaire, Pretty Girls Klondike Solitaire, Pretty Girls Mahjong Solitaire Blue. They had a red and a blue, or a blue and a green. Yeah. In a lot of ways, Zoo Corporation, while they've made some decent games, they've also kind of flooded Steam with some garbage. They're really teetering on the line. And a lot of their games are not that good. Koi Koi Japan, I like that one. But that also was one from 2015. And then they started to slide quite a bit. You can see a decent amount of their games are mixed, while some are held positively because they're selling on the lewd content. Here we have a game called Eyes of the Night, which clearly is just a low polygon horror game. Easily dismissed, $3.99 English only. Here we have a game called Tile Runner, which can easily be dismissed. Free, English only. Here we have a game called Samudra, which looks like it's tagged as an underwater game. Looks to be a bit of an adventure game. It's kind of weird to have a game set underwater, but whatever.
And so our pact is forged.
$9.74, English only. Here we have a game called Fae. I'll put Samudra on the follow list. Fae, on the other hand, I don't know if this actually supports English. $1.79, Chinese only. Yeah. If this did support English, I might be willing to consider it, but I probably would still dismiss it as just being a little too pixely and a little too boring looking. Here we have Motorcycle Biker Simulator, which looks like nothing of interest. Early access $2.39. Here we have Caves of Mars, which is not a game I'd want to play. Looks like a mobile port. $14.99, English only. Alright, let's see if we can now go through the rest of the news. Blue Reflection Second Light demo for PS4 and Switch is now available in Japan. Alright. Interesting enough, I suppose. YouTube creators. Twitch was having some weird thing where it was not able to show retweeted tweets. Twitter was. Not Twitch. But they fixed that. I was gonna get on YouTube creators back about them retweeting somebody that then went and deleted the tweet, but actually it wasn't YouTube's fault that time. Kind of buried the lead here. This is probably the biggest news today. Netflix has acquired the Oxenfree developer Night School Studio. We'll keep making Oxenfree 2, the studio co-founder promises. But almost certainly they're not going to make anything after Oxenfree 2. And frankly, having played Oxenfree 1, I think it probably is better off as a team that could take slightly interesting ideas and make a linear story with it versus trying to make video games. But there is a high possibility also that Netflix has just bought this company to have them make video games, and I'm not sure Night School Studio is particularly going to be a good developer of video games based on Netflix properties that already exist or based on new properties in general. Netflix may very well have them just make mobile games, and they probably are going to be as well suited at that as making like indie games, which is what they were making before. Unity has this weird thing where they're doing a Lego ideas contest, which is weird, certainly. They want somebody, I guess, to use Lego to make a ninja themed set that integrates with Lego ideas. So yeah, it seems like Unity is working with Lego, and maybe they had been for a while now. But it does seem kind of weird, to say the least, because Lego, in a funny way, is kind of a direct competitor to video games in that it's a toy that doesn't require video games. Here's the blog. Top winners from the Lego Ninjago and One Button Game Challenge will have their playable Lego microgame creations featured in Lego retail stores. Oh yeah, I guess Unity did come out with that Lego microgame plug-in extension for Unity. I had completely forgotten about it. A lot of these Nintendo themed sets are being listed as out of stock, and they're shifting to the next series of them. And then Minecraft, I guess, is still around, but it's definitely not particularly popular. And winning $200 at the Unity asset store is way worse than winning $200 in Lego content, although this is a $250 set in itself. And this is, frankly, the only good Nintendo Lego set I've seen so far, that, at least as far as ones that interest me. And it's kind of funny that they're pushing Lego Ninjago, since Lego Ninjago is fairly mature, although still very popular. Moving on, Video Game Chronicle says Valve's next Index VR headset will reportedly be a standalone unit. Datamine suggests the next device, codenamed Deckard, will not need a PC to run. Well, there are several VR headsets that already do that, and they tend not to be the powerful ones. Video Game Chronicle says it looks like Guerrilla could be working on a Horizon multiplayer game. Job listing points to an online project after sources told Video Game Chronicle of co-op aspirations. Okay. I'm sure they want some form of co-op, maybe not multiplayer. One of the people who works on Binding of Isaac, the executive producer of Binding of Isaac, Tyrone Rodriguez, tweeted that the Binding of Isaac Repentance console submissions are making great progress. Once every version is approved, all console versions will release simultaneously. We're not far to go now, so if you were playing Binding of Isaac and you wanted the new expansion on consoles, it should be out fairly soon. This is probably a big story that I buried the lead onto. Monkey Ball's classic announcer isn't in Banana Mania and accuses Sega of discrimination. Brad Matt had previously claimed he would be in the remaster. So, yeah. I don't know what form of discrimination he's claiming. Is this anti-white guy, or is it just anti-foreigner, Japanese thought? The other thing I had heard about Banana Mania is that the physics engine is different. So if you were really good at the previous Monkey Ball games and you're doing these classic levels, they're going to feel differently, which might be for the better, unless the new physics engine is way worse. Says in a further twist, Sega spokesman claimed in a statement that the voice actor was never involved in Banana Mania's developer, despite the actor's claims. Saying that he hasn't been involved with Super Monkey Ball series for some time. He was the announcer in Super Monkey Ball 2, Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, all of three of which have been remastered in Banana Mania. Yeah. Sega's decision not to use him looks possibly a result of an ongoing dispute between Matt and Sega, who he claims discriminates against foreign voice actors by not crediting them or paying them royalties. I bet there's some truth to that. I would not be surprised if there's some truth to that. So, yeah. Is that the hill the people should die on? Maybe. Let's see. There's a quote here. No foreign narrators have ever been given royalties for this, and we're going to make a change. This has to stop. I wonder if the non-foreign narrators get royalties, or if they don't. This may just very well be a case where the Japanese aren't paying anybody. That is also a possibility. Sega's not paying anybody. any of the narrator's royalties. But yeah, it's undeniable that Japanese businesses have ways of doing things that are, if not intentionally designed to disenfranchise foreigners, all foreigners of every color, race, creed, gender, and sex. But they if they're not designed to do that, they are effectively still doing it. And most Japanese companies refuse to change anything they do and how they do business at all, and are stuck in traditions that were established. I mean, it is the equivalent of almost the argument that somebody would say, well, slavery was a tradition of the United States, therefore we should still have slavery. It's like, no, just because something was once done in the past doesn't mean it has to still be done. And yet Japanese people lean on tradition as their excuse for not changing things. Yeah, I don't want to get into a whole rant about it, but yeah, there's a lot of obvious, blatant, naked racism in Japan. Although, in fairness, there's a lot of obvious, blatant racism all around the world. Moving on. GameDeveloper.com says Beastbreaker is just the beginning for Asher Vollmer's new studio. So there's this game called Beastbreaker, and game developer is kind of promoting it. Looks like it might be kind of interesting, but also might be kind of silly in that you're doing almost like a pachinko pinball style gameplay. Trying to hit as many things as possible. The actual gameplay, I think, looks a lot more like this than these screenshots and these storytelling elements. Alright, well, that leaves me with one full title bar of games, and we're nearly 4 hours in, so I'm just going to have a lot of games left over for Friday. We're going to go through the news just to see if there's any new news to talk about, and then we'll wrap up this stream. Well, apparently now to be monetized you need 4 requirements, when previously it was 2 requirements, according to TubeBuddy. Yeah. What are the... well, I guess there probably were 4 requirements. You have to be within their guidelines and not making non-YouTube family friendly content. You can't have 4,000 watch hours and over 1,000 subscribers, and then every single video is just straight up porn. But I wonder what the 4th requirement would be. You might also need to set up an AdSense account and have ways to be paid before they'll monetize you. It wouldn't be surprising if that's now a requirement, to give tax information and all of that before they even start to think about paying you, instead of holding money in escrow and never Here's a story that's been retweeted. Bloomberg, probably Jason Schreier, says that at least 11 game developers ranging from large publishers to small studios, and including at least one that has never made a console game before Zynga Incorporated, were in possession of Nintendo's 4K development kit for the Switch. Which, yeah, that doesn't really mean anything, though. There may never be a 4K Switch that comes out, and I would really have to question whether there's a lot of value in making a 4K Switch They probably should take a middle step and just make a 2K Switch first. Because, yeah, the games that have been made for the Switch up until this point are not going to magically convert and upscale as well as just regular games on like the Xbox Series S versus the Series X, or the Xbox One versus the Series. So a 4K Switch almost certainly should not be called the Switch. It should be something completely different. And I just don't think Nintendo has enough development resources that they want to invest. I'm sure they have the money, or they could put the resources into investing in the 4K. I just don't think they have the desire to do it, to go up to 4K. That would be a lot of kids potentially demanding a 4K TV to play their new 4K Switch. Let's see. Destruction All-Stars Studio Lucid Games has been handed the Twisted Metal franchise, sources have told Video Game Chronicles. We'll talk about that on Friday. Now, by being handed the franchise, the question I guess would come down to, do they straight up own the rights to it, or are they just in charge of making the latest Twisted Metal game? Because that would be a big difference. Alright, well, that's all the news. So that's going to be it for the stream. A lot of work I'm going to have to put in off screen to get these puzzles done and just grind. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.